I realized the type of pimp I wasn't like the pimp I was imagining in my head. When my mama saw me crying, she was like, "Get your little soft ass." If you write down my wrongs and my rights would be longer than my wrongs. It's facts. My urine was like hot. Like it was like a burning sensation every time I peed.
What's going on, y'all? I'm Miabelle. We're back with another episode of BET Talks. And yes, the youngest in charge is in the building, okay? He's in his Picasso era right now. I'm talking about daring artist, ally, model, actor, NLE Choppa. What's up?
Hey, how you doing?
How you feeling?
Yeah, great.
The smile is bright. The diamonds are shining.
Thank you.
And we're aligned. We're wearing the same colors today.
God told me to wear it.
God told me to wear it too. Actually, my stylist did. Shouts to Nisha. So much is happening in your space right now. We're talking movies, music, and of course, just the light that you are embodying. Now, before we get into all of the new stuff that you're doing, we do want to play a little game.
Okay.
Because you embody a lot of Tupac energy. This is what my director told me. He said something about him reminds me of Tupac. It's the energy that he brings to the table. So I want to know how much you know about Pac, okay? Do you think you can name me 3 movies that Tupac done starred in?
First you gotta go with Juice for sure.
Was that one of your favorites?
One of my favorites for sure.
Why?
I just like the menacing vibe he played in it. He was like a Joker card throughout the whole movie. The passion he had, you saw it spoke volumes. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was his first full-length film where the whole world knew who Pac was in the film space. Secondly, I'm gonna have to go with Above Around.
Ooh,
simply because
that's a good one.
I love the character he played again, menacing. He played it to a T. He channeled everything he needed to channel. And I think like around that time, there was a lot of things going on outside of the career space that was kind of making or breaking him. And I feel he handled it well. And last but not least, Poetic Justice.
Of course, yeah, that's the one right there. Yeah, and now we get to see you acting in your debut film, Black Heat, and you are playing a menace, I would say.
Yeah, menace.
You play it too well.
Yeah, a little too well. I said the same thing.
Did it shock you with how deep you can go in this role, this being your first one?
I feel like I was born to do it. It was something about me that I think it's like past life connections to where I didn't have to do any acting classes. I didn't have to have an acting coach.
None of it?
I just knew how to channel, the emotions that I feel. I know how to study the character, understand why is my character this way? Why is he shaped this way? What was his upbringing? How was his parents? All of these things helped me to be able to understand who King David was in the film.
Right.
And, I played it to a T, even doing things that I've never physically done myself, like, for instance, like some of the domestic violence tips. It was like, I played it a little too well that
it was too real. Oh, King David.
Yeah, I was like apologizing before I did it, in the middle of the set, and even at the end, it was like, I had to keep saying, I'm sorry, are you okay? Like, just being emotionally available for who I was acting with.
How did it make you feel having to really tap into a role where you were abusive to women in a physical way?
At the end of the day, I played something that shined for a greater purpose, which is how we should protect our children at the end of the day. Because the girl was like 15 in the film. She was a child that was getting led astray by a man selling her a dream, which is happening every day in our society. We having our young black queens that's falling victim to love and not even loving themselves before they hop into things. So I think that was the main gist of everything, with me knowing I was serving a greater purpose with me being the bad, because without the bad is no good. I had to do that. I had to play that role for the overall message to be conceived. And I got my karma at the end.
Yeah, you sure did get your karma. We don't want to spoil it too much, but I do want you to take me back to the process of filming this. What were auditions like for you, and who made the call?
Shout out to Wes Miller, director. Went to school with my mother in Memphis, so he's a fellow Memphian.
Is Mama Potts in the building?
Yes, she's here.
Hey, Mama. Yeah, Mama is always around, by the way.
When I first wanted to get into the acting space, I was sending auditions in. They was asking for auditions. Just a few movies I auditioned for, and none of them stick. And I was like, man, I'm tired of this. I'm like, I'm not gonna do these no more. I'm like, I don't understand why they keep wasting my time, because I know I'm killing the auditions.
Right.
But I feel like people got the roles that were quote unquote like more seasoned, and I felt no one really wanted to take a chance on a new face.
Right.
So I was like, it's cool or whatever. I just kept trucking. But with this film, Wes Miller reached out to my mother and said, I don't want him to do an audition. I know he's the one for this role. He said, I just know it. When he said that, I was like, oh, I owe him everything I got. I've been waiting on this moment. I feel like a lot of people overlooked me. So the fact that he saw what I've seen in myself made me know it was meant. And so once I got on set, I think I blew him away times 10.
Now, when you were reading the script too, what was going through your head? Was it like, oh, hell yeah, I could do this?
So, for sure, I got the gist of the film, and I didn't really read my character until I got there, because I'm the type person I like to be like surprised as if like what it is I'm doing. I heard that I was gonna have to be like a pimp. I heard it was gonna be like some domestic scenes, and the day of, I realized the type of pimp I wasn't like the pimp I was imagining in my head. I was thinking like a slick talking pimp or whatever, but it was really like I still was able to hone in on who I was from like a street aspect. And growing up in Memphis, that's not hard to channel, so it came second nature. And once I got to reading the character and developing it, I started to ask questions. I was like, why is he like this? So basically, it stems back to the origin of the movie. It's like, how are we being brought up? Who are our parents? How are we being raised? Because generational curses have an effect on us in the future if we're not addressing them. So.
Absolutely. Do you feel like with all of that too, you had to kind of step away from the character after everything was done because of all of the bad that's within this character, where you had to kind of regroup to get back to yourself?
I don't think I had to do it simply because I didn't have to channel that deeply. Like, okay, so if I haven't done it, I've seen it.
Right.
If I haven't seen it, I've heard it. If I haven't heard it, I've been a part of it or I've done it. So like within those 3 different measures, I feel connected. It's nothing that I have to just like say, okay, let me get in the space to really hone in on it. I feel like it's a part of me. It's a part of the culture I come from. It's a part of the upbringing. And my life is a movie. So, being able to play a character in a movie wasn't too hard.
Now talk to me about the cast, because I feel like he took a chance on a lot of the cast members. We have Dream Doll in there, Tabitha Robinson, also Jason Mitchell. What was it like working with them?
Man, it was beautiful. I told Jason when I was young, I was around 12, Straight Outta Compton came out, and I remember crying on the Eazy-E scene when he acted him land on his deathbed. So I let him know that. I was like, man, it's full circle to me, because I remember I was in the movie theater. I'm like the little badass kid everywhere, so like when my mama saw me crying, she was like, she was like, look at your little soft ass. Like, that's how she kind of looked at me. She was like, you crying? And I was like, I don't know why. It just got to me. And, fast forward, I'm on a movie set with him. So I feel like that's why it was real significant to the reason why he connected with me emotionally, because once I met him, I was able to give him those flowers. And I feel like in the time where I gave it to him, he really needed to hear it. Dream Doll, I love Dream Doll. She just welcomed a baby girl as well. So I think the movie is very on brand and on point. And I think it's just very much in alignment, because when she shot that movie, she wasn't pregnant. Now she's just had a daughter. And I got kids myself, so.
Full circle moment. Yeah, you're a dad. I know that your parents are always with you when you're on the move for the most part. That's a beautiful thing that we get to see. What would you describe yourself as a father, and how you want to be in the future too when it comes to your kids, and how hands-on you want to be?
I'm like cool dad. I feel like, I still have streaks and restrictions. I think the most important part of parenthood with me is being able to create a friendship with my kids first before anything, because I want them to be able to be comfortable enough to tell me anything. And I remember it was days where, I'm not saying my parents never made me comfortable enough, but I just felt like what I was going through, I was too uncomfortable to bring to them. My goal is to figure out what's the balance between being their friends, but also being a person of guidance and discipline and order.
Right. Has that relationship between you and your parents changed now that you've walked into stardom and you're in your creative lane, and now they get to see you for who you are as a creative?
I mean, yeah, for sure. Like, once I started to get into my teenage years, I started to have to build comfortability.
Yeah.
Because I was doing grown man stuff. I remember
that you shouldn't have been doing?
It was funny, man. I was around like 14. And I never drunk water. Like, I always drunk like sodas, sweet tea, lemonade. But I was always like, I don't like water. It's just, I just never drank water.
It don't taste like nothing.
It don't taste like kid stuff.
Right.
But it was around the time I was like 14, 15, I kind of got like sexually active as well. So like, I remember one time my urine was like hot. Like, it was like a burning sensation every time I peed. So like I had
This is very important, by the way.
For real. Like it's for real. So like I had to come to my dad and be like, "Dad, I ain't gonna lie, like I'm burning." He was like, "What?" And I feel like one of my best advice my dad gave me was like, use a condom. Like he always use a condom, use a condom. Like if it ain't one thing that my pops ain't never told me is for sure use a condom.
Absolutely. And, Pay attention, y'all.
Yeah, I thought I had some. We went to the doctor and they ran tests on me. It wasn't nothing.
Right.
But
it was all that sugar.
Yeah, it was all the sugar, and I think that was the first time I became like vulnerable enough to tell my dad like what was going on, and I told him I think I had got somebody pregnant, and it was just kept stemming from there, and they were just looking at me like, "What are you doing?" Like everything started to catch up.
What do you think was happening during that era for you, though? What were you going through? What were you seeing that was making you live this lifestyle?
I think. I'm sorry.
It's okay. ASMR. I hope the mic got that.
I be having to release. But I think it was me transitioning from a young boy wanting to be a young man. And in the process, you have to hit your head and you have to start figuring out life. I started to get curious around like 11, 12. From a street aspect and all of the stuff that I saw people doing, girlfriends and kisses and all that stuff, wanting women. I've been that way since like kindergarten. It's been crazy. So I've always been like quicker and like faster. Never hung with my age. I always hung with older people, wanting to know what the adults was doing. And I think God, in a sense, was trying to grow me up quicker because I had a purpose to get out on a certain type of time. And you know, 14, 15, it was like a breakthrough moment where Mom and Pop, they were like, you gonna either go to military school or you gonna get this right in order here. It was certain days where things was rocky, but they trusted me to an extent. I kept God first. I was deeply rooted in prayer, and I blew up like at 16.
Now, do you still feel like you go through some of those obstacles, but just in a different way? Because you are still young, you're still curious, I can imagine, and still exploring who you are as a young man and an artist.
You go through it every day. I think every day is room for growth. Who I was 5 years ago, I'm not him. And who I was 5 years before that, I'm definitely not him. So I feel like every year is a step up. I learn something different. It gets me closer to another breakthrough. It gets the same amount of hard. Like, it was real hard. I was battling stuff that I never knew I was gonna battle at the age of where I was, 14, 15, being depressed, being socially distant, being a person that wanted to stay away from everything because I did not fit in. I just didn't understand what was wrong with me. And, you know, God let me know it wasn't nothing wrong with me. I was just fighting the inside. I was just fighting what was willing to upward, what was trying to climax. Once it climaxed, I understood all the reasons of why I was rebellious, all the reasons of why I was hard-headed and went against the grain. And it's because, you know, on the inside, God was showing me something. And I was being faithful with it. It was days I thought, like, dang, like, I almost died here being faithful. Like, I put myself in a territory that was very much worthy of harm times 10, but because of my faith and because of my prayer, I felt I was always protected.
He protected you from all of that. I see and hear that you pour all of your experiences in your music too, and you've evolved so much in such a short amount of time. How would you categorize your music now?
Freedom.
Yeah.
Being free, being outside of a box, being like herky-jerky, not knowing what to expect from me, but also knowing that it's a resemblance of my soul. It's a resemblance of my infinite. It resembles who I am as a person. I don't wake up every day with the yay mindset, and I don't wake up every day sad, but I'm always different. And to be able to channel however I feel on each day and be able to jot it down, put it into a song, it helps me keep going. And it may help the next person as well.
What song right now would you say speaks to where you are in life? Because after hearing Crescent Moon and you getting all deep and you're telling us your truth, you're apologizing, something that we don't hear often enough sometimes, especially from Black men. You're being very vulnerable. Is that where you would say that you are in your life in this moment?
It's a part of where I am, for sure. Because at the end of the day, NLE Choppa is the entity, but Bryson is dealing with things of the nature on a daily basis, which can hinder NLE Choppa as a performer. So sometimes me as Bryson Potts, who I am every day when the cameras are off, there's certain things I gotta fix. There's certain things I have to address. I feel like I had to do it on a public scale because my life is so public. So when things hit the fan, it's like everyone's in my business. So whatever happens in private, if an apology is made in private, it doesn't hit because it's still a perception on the world of how the mother of my kids may be viewed. So some things have to be addressed publicly because it hit the fan publicly.
And I think that's okay. We're humans, so we're allowed to mess up and we're allowed to apologize and to be accountable.
For sure.
When you think about the wrongs that you've made and the things that you've apologized for, how would you say you've changed as an individual too so that you don't do those things again?
The first change is acknowledgement, awareness. I feel like, even with addicts, people gotta know that they're addicts.
Did it take you a while to realize what you were doing wrong or what you thought you were doing wrong?
It took me a while in my walk of life, but I feel like a lot of people, it take them years.
Right.
It took me literally a year, a few months to say like, okay, if I feel I was honest as possible, her emotions are still valid versus if I'm lying or if I'm telling the truth, your emotions are gonna still hit a certain way. I feel like where I was taking accountability at was like the magnitude of what my wrongs were, even if my rights was outwritten. I always used to say like, if you write down my wrongs and my rights would be longer than my wrongs. It's facts.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, sometimes the wrongs is what people hold on to. So I have to do my due diligence to know like what that is. And I also have to do my shadow work to make sure that I'm trying to relieve you of that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you don't get relieved of it, at least I tried. But I also know on the other end, someone has to come to the realization that they want to forgive me or that they want to walk away from it or they want to change the chapters in their life.
Who's helping you get to this place? You in therapy? You talking about shadow work and all of that?
I just pray, meditate, and I just keep good people around me.
Now, of course, the body is changing from when you were younger and drinking all that juice, and now you're on a healthier diet, of course. Now, what are some tips that you would give out there to young people who are exploring just changing their way of life? Because we know that you do have a lot of holistic aspects that you bring into yours. I know gardening is something that you're into as well. The young kids is calling gardening smoking weed these days. But you talking about real gardening and stuff, right?
Come with me. I wish I would have learned this before I put them in. If you put your seeds in your mouth and then put them in like the soil, the seeds will take in your DNA and then it'll grow for the benefits that you need.
The advice I give to people is not to hold on to wherever your new is too long. Our life is meant to change for us to take heed of what works throughout that process and what's to be let go. So certain aspects of like, I used to try to be 100% positive every day, but it's impossible. I realized God makes nothing one way. God makes everything with balance. We need to implement balancing. We don't have to be vegan every single day. We don't have to be eating meat every single day. But with balancement, that's where you find true peace and duality. And I feel like that's where God has showed me. He's like, there's no such thing as a goody-goody. You can't be perfect. And I feel like everyone thinks it's perfection that God values, but it's not. And you just gotta know balancement. You gotta know who you are. You gotta stay deeply rooted in prayer and just keep moving forward because life is just gonna life.
Gotta be ready to roll with it.
Yeah, once I realized that, man, I live as free as I can be, but also as disciplined as I can be because I've been extremely hard on myself and I realized like I'm still a child.
Yeah.
And no matter how old you get, you still have that child in you. And the more you go against that child is the more out of touch you become with who you really are. So I try to hold on to my inner child. I still know how my laugh sound when I was like 5, 6 years old.
Really?
I still know how my voice sounded when I was that young. I think that's what's important to me, holding on to that, because this world will never dirty me up too much if I know who I was as a kid.
Yep. I love that. The balance that you are living is shown in all that you do within music. We've seen you on the catwalk in Milan. And of course in this movie, Black Heat. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here and sharing space with us. It's BET Talk.
Thank you.
Yay!